Turn to Mr. Epperson. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the subcommittee. My name is Trent Epperson. I'm the Assistant City Manager with the City of Pearland in Texas, and I'm pleased to be invited here today to present to you the effects of Hurricane Harvey as it occurred in the City of Pearland, especially as it relates to critical water and wastewater infrastructure and the need to make that infrastructure resilient and redundant. The City of Pearland is a suburban city of about 120,000 residents just south of the City of Houston. It's been one of the fastest growing communities in the nation over the past 15 years. We've grown from a population of about a little over 30,000 in the year 2000 to today over 120,000, to where we're the third largest city in the Houston metro area. During Hurricane Harvey, with its unprecedented flooding, Pearland experienced structural flooding affecting over 1,700 residents, 50 businesses, and flooding to critical infrastructure, including 2 wastewater treatment plants. Most of the flooding occurred along Clear Creek, which, germane to this subcommittee, is a 303D listed impaired water body for bacteria. With a 500-year storm event, it was estimated before this storm that about 7,000 residents in the Clear Creek watershed would flood. I believe we saw that or more in Pearland and the downstream communities. There is, however, a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer drainage project that's been on the books since the 60s, but yet to be funded. Based on the studies associated with that project, approximately half of those residents that flooded in the watershed would likely have been spared during Hurricane Harvey. Additionally, critical infrastructure within the watershed would not have flooded and failed as well. Although the City of Pearland has grown rapidly, our new development and our new infrastructure follows current codes and standards. The result was that in those newer areas, we experienced very minimal flooding, and that's in areas where we've added tens of thousands of new rooftops over the past 15 years. So we see that along with the completion of the Clear Creek Drainage Project, what is needed is funding for continued sound investment in resilient and redundant critical infrastructure, especially to bring the older infrastructure to current standards. The most critical of those infrastructure pieces are our water, wastewater, and the automated systems that control that infrastructure. It is a critical life safety issue for any city to have the ability to deliver clean, safe drinking water during a disaster. For Pearland, this critical infrastructure must have adequate generator power, flood-proofing, and adequate elevation to survive a minimum of a 500-year storm, as well as able to withstand a Category 4 hurricane winds. During Hurricane Harvey, our water system performed very well, with only one water well sustaining minor damage due to power surging. We never lost pressure, and we were always able to deliver that clean, safe drinking water. Unfortunately, some of our adjoining communities and the smaller water systems around us were unable to do that and did have to issue boil water notices. Additionally, continuity of service in treating wastewater is critical for citizens sheltering in place and the return of evacuees when they come back to their homes. We must ensure that wastewater is adequately treated and not released during a flooding event, because that can affect the downstream water quality in our streams and bayous. In our area, wastewater facilities are often located in low-lying areas near the stream that they outfall to, making them vulnerable to flooding. And therefore, a lot of them are in need of the same resiliency and redundancy criteria applied to our drinking water facilities. During Harvey, unfortunately, our wastewater system did not fare near as well as our wastewater system. Our Longwood wastewater treatment plant, which was originally built in the 1960s and is sited in one of the old oxbows of Clear Creek, was inundated with floodwaters and inoperable for up to 72 hours during the event. The estimated damage to the plant is about $1.5 million. But due to the proximity of the plant to the creek, instead of making those expensive repairs on a plant that's vulnerable to the next flood, this facility should have its flows redirected to an adequate plant to mitigate any future damage or loss of service. One final critical piece of infrastructure to our utility operations is the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System, or SCADA. What SCADA is it's basically a system that allows us to monitor and control our critical water and wastewater facilities remotely. These systems must be redundant and resilient to provide continuous connectivity to those facilities throughout an emergency event. SCADA is indispensable to ensure the plants and the lift stations are operational and properly functioning when we cannot reach those facilities due to high water or debris. During Hurricane Harvey, for 3 days, we could not physically access 18 wastewater lift stations, which are critical to getting the wastewater to the plants. Due to a lack of SCADA redundancy, we were also unable to monitor many of these facilities remotely. The City of Pearland, although challenged, fared relatively well through Hurricane Harvey and will recover stronger than we were before the disaster. As we rebuild, we look to ensure our critical infrastructure is able to withstand flooding, high winds, and other potential disasters. To do this, we must have adequate recovery and mitigation funding available so that we do not just rebuild our critical infrastructure to its original state, but we rebuild resilient, redundant infrastructure ready for the next disaster. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.